Shalom. This is Mary Omni from the World Government House of King David, Holy Covenant Constitutional Enforcer. This is a Republic Notice. This is the month of July. Today is July the 22nd. And I want to take the time to congratulate and to acknowledge the Black American nationality, nationhood from 1868. Our 146th anniversary is coming up as us being a Judaic, constitutional, contract supreme nation in America. 146 years. We have been a nation. Not a community, but a nation, a contractual supreme nation. This is a Republic Notice. Celebrate. This is our second 4th of July. This is our 4th of July. This is our 28th, the 5 sevens of July. The 7th month, the 4, also the 4 of the 28. The 4 sevens of the 28, because 14 and 14 equal 28, and then the 7th month. So this is the 5/7 or the 35 or the 3/5 celebration of blacks being a nation, a constitutional contractual nation for 146 years. Okay? Pull out your grills, get that brew, get some wine, celebrate. You want to celebrate Juneteenth of you being free, you better celebrate your contractual liberation as a nation. July the 28th, 1868, 146 years ago. Until you acknowledge that and begin to believe that, then you're stuck. Okay, you're stuck into a mentality that don't believe in your own liberation. But anyway, the title of this video is called The Native Hoax versus the Constitution. The Native Hoax versus the Constitution. Let me just get straight to the matter. The Native Hoax versus the Constitution is the hoax that the natives was not black. Therefore, if they present the native as something other than black, then they could suppress the constitutional blacks, thus suppress the Constitution in eyes wide shut, plain sight. And then people will go along with it, and they will sum up that there was a native before the blacks that suffered and that became extinct. However, the whole hoax of it is to convince blacks and to convince other people that blacks are not the natives. And then you have these pale people who the red man used to call the pale face. A lot of them are claiming native status by extinction or vampirism of helping the red natives and the black natives to become extinct. And now they're in pale face and claiming native status. Now, this is a warning to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. We see right through the smoke screen, okay? The smoke screen is going to be revealed. The problem is in Alaska, as well as in the other states, the so-called natives that you claim are natives are under incorporate doctrines. They're under incorporate doctrines. They have no constitutional teeth. They have no contractual authority. They have no God-sovereign constitutionality. They have no supremacy over land of non-consent jurisdiction. Where blacks have non-consent jurisdiction supremacy by supreme contract that all other contractors are subject to. Also, blacks hold the foreign jurisdiction supremacy of non-consent, of same like kind, matching the Constitution, matching the 1866 treaties where blacks was put in the Creek, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, the Seminole, and the Cherokee treaties, just to name a few. So all we have to do as black Americans is 1866, all your asses, okay? 1866, all your asses in so-called classes. And when I say classes of natives, y'all want to do that blood, whatever, quantum theory, BS? Okay, the real natives is the contractual supreme natives, and they are 3/5. They are the 3/5 originated in the Constitution, okay? Now, in Alaska, they got a hospital called the Native Hospital, and they declare if you have 1/32 of native blood, then you consider native. And what does this bring? A whole bunch of pale-faced and corporate doctrines running these so-called native corporations, which is really an obvious fraud, because let me tell you something about Alaska. It was purchased in 1867, and they put a lot into these natives to suppress the black constitutional supremacy native status. They prop them up with schools, hospitals, mining dividends, along with oil dividends, and all these are in corporate doctrine natives, which means they contracted with world debt. They contracted with world debt, just like a lot of these Pale Natives who claim blacks are not a part of the Cherokee, the Seminole, the Choctaw, or the Chickasaw because they don't see their name under the Dawes Act. Well, I can prove all blacks are connected with the Dawes Act. I can prove that the Alaskan Natives are really black by supreme contract, okay? And they're the only ones that can keep the land God sovereign. And another hoax is to act like red natives was here first. Before there was a red native, there was a black native who made it with Genghis Khan and produced the red. Before there was a red native, there was a black native who made it with the invasion of Genghis Khan and produced a red native. Now, on top of that, we have the black Olmecs that we found in Verde, Mexico, and they finding a lot of artifacts in here in North America that they're not telling you about, okay? But it's coming out. It's coming out. But before that, the Bible said, I will send you back to where you had already been, to where your forefathers had already been. I will send you back. Our forefathers was already in America, so we was already native to America, okay? Just because we were the second or third influx and we came by chains or by force, don't mean that our DNA was not already here in our forefathers. Okay, so we need to understand that first. Us coming by chains don't mean that our DNA wasn't already here through our forefathers. Just like the Bible said, I will send you back to where your forefathers had already been, to four corners of the world. Okay, and this is one corner, and this is the corner God chose to put his chosen people in. And that's why we can become from slavery in 1865, 3.5 years later, the time of Christ's revolutionary process, 3.5, we were a nation, a constitutional nation, just 3 years out of the abolition of slavery. Okay? And the native chiefs sat down with the Union heads, and they sat down with the Judaic soldiers and the Buffalo soldiers who was formed in 1866, and they said this: we're going to put the chosen, we know our God people in our treaties, because we know they're going to inherit. We know these are the chosen ones. We know these are going to be the ones that God chooses. So we want them in our treaties to keep our land God sovereign, because they're non-consenters. They're non-consenters, and they won't consent the land away to the pale man. They won't consent the land away to the pale man. I know these people. We own these people as they was our slaves also, and we know them. They won't consent this land to the pale people. They're non-consenters. And therefore, you have some red natives now. With the stringy head is what they all have in common. These red and later natives, they don't have the nappy hair like the original natives on Earth. The original natives on Earth has hair like sheep or wool, soft wool, like locks. And so these stringy haired natives, and I want to be sensitive to them because the red natives is a product of black and the Genghis Khan regime. So I'm not casting them aside. I'm saying they did exist, but they did exist as a result of the blacks who came before him and came before Christopher Columbus. Okay, they did exist. They are something to be sensitive to, because they are a result of a couple of mixtures, and that is the black and the yellow. Okay, so we had the red natives, but now we have some red natives here talking about it's all right for Hispanics to invade this land because the white man did it. Well, they're not in a position contractually or otherwise to say this land is okay for invasion because the white man did it. See, our Indian chiefs knew to put black Americans in all their treaties of 1866 because they knew these red natives with this stringy hair and invasion of white blood would start popping up out of their neck talking about it's okay to invade because the white man did it. Why? Because they're under incorporate doctrines and they have no real allegiance. Yeah, they had been Trail of Tears, even though the Trail of Tears was majority black natives. Red natives suffered in the Trail of Tears, but they was majority black. But you don't see them popping out saying, you know, it's okay to invade this because the white man. You might have some blacks talking about I'm standing up for civil rights. That's because they want to be the gatekeepers against the constitutionality. They always have black gatekeepers against constitutionality. But contractually wise, blacks are the constitutional natives. And so we got to get it straight, the wording. See, there's a constitutional native and there's an corporate doctrine native. The constitutional native is the 3/5 that the Bureau of Indian Affairs better recognize. There's only one contractual supreme native in this land that keeps this land God sovereign, and this land and wealth is connected to and contracted to. And that's the 3/5 constitutional native Indian non-taxed. Indian non-taxed because they didn't consent. They didn't consent. All the Alaskan natives, all the other so-called natives, and the Alaskan natives are really just Russians left over. It was 33,000 of them when we bought Alaska, and it was several million constitutional black natives. A comparison to 33,000 Russian leftovers of a Mongoloid descent from the Bering Strait. And I don't care what they say at this point. All they do consent is to world debt and theft. No matter what they try to front them with, Remember, they contract with the U.S. corporation for the little trinkets, so they can't keep the land God sovereign, and that's why they fronting them, so they can embezzle what they want. And see, these so-called pale Alaska Natives need to know that Alaska has never been under consent jurisdiction. And see, that's the sticky part that everyone needs to understand. It was purchased in 1867. By the time Alaska was purchased, the jurisdiction, constitutional jurisdiction, had changed. It was non-consent jurisdiction. So it was never a land under consent jurisdiction in America, in the Constitution. It was always under non-consent jurisdiction, purchased in 1867. A non-consent jurisdiction was established in 1865 because the jurisdiction of the Constitution had to be changed to abolish slavery. 1866, blacks became legal contractors of non-consent nationality. That's the true birth of their nation, 1866. It was constitutionalized in 1868 as the foreign supreme contractual natives and the constitutional natives, black Judaic nation, because Jews are the native of the earth, because Jesus Christ was before the foundation of the world. And so his people and the body of his people in this supreme contract, the Jews, the Judaic blacks, is the native and indigenous before the foundation of the world. Now, I can prove everything I'm saying. I can prove blacks are the natives. I can prove it all points back to them. I can prove it to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I can prove it to anyone who wants to sit down and challenge me and tell me to prove what I'm saying. I can prove it, okay? I can prove exactly what I'm saying. I know what I'm saying and how I'm saying it. Blacks are the natives, okay? I'm not saying any other don't exist in some blood of natives, but I'm telling you the 3/5 is the natives that's in the Constitution. And that's why it's in the Constitution as blacks not taxed. So you have no business taxing blacks on anything. You have no business taxing blacks on anything. They're in all the 1866 treaties. They say they have African descent because that's where they found them at. But they're non-consenters, and they was the slaves that the red natives owned the black natives, okay? So I'm saying this, all who using a so-called yellow mongoloid natives as an excuse to embezzle wealth out of Alaska, we see who you are. We see who you are, and we understand your criminality. All those who want to try to call Indian and public housing to embezzle and all this to suppress the constitutional blacks is not working. Okay, we see through you. We see through you. We in all the treaties anyway, and we in the Constitution. Like I said, our constitutional right is Reconstruction is a Civil War. Soldiers and the Union beat you to the punch. You trying to undo something that you can't undo. We was eons ahead of you. All of your Johnny come lately, throwing smoke screens around, playing games, trying to challenge our Constitution using foreign jurisdiction that you don't have no contract on, because only black Americans have the contract on the foreign jurisdiction, all the native nations and all this land. So I'm saying right now the hand of God is seeing this through, and right now the Satan hand is getting weak, because I'm starting to see, and I'm letting others know. I'm letting others know blacks are the constitutional natives, and that's the only native that matter. The corporate doctrine natives are all in debt. They are born under corporate doctrines. They cannot hold no land sovereign, and that's what they want. Not those who have God's sovereignty. That's why the war is on against blacks, because blacks have the God sovereignty to hold the land and the wealth. None of these other natives do. See, that's why they reward them, and then they try to starve blacks out of their own wealth. This is July. Celebrate the nationhood. 146 years of constitutionality, 148 years as a nation. Shalom.